Welcome to the live, everybody. It's your good Professor NAMII, but I'm not your mother. If you're new to the channel, this video, let me go subscribe. And as you can see by the title, we're going to be getting into it. To all my Black Americans out there, happy Juneteenth. And before I get into the lesson, y'all already know, got the whiteboard out ready. I just want to make something clear. Let me let this ambulance go by. All right, are you listening?
Yes.
Who is Juneteenth for?
Black Americans?
Okay. Did any other group contribute to Juneteenth?
I don't think so.
No, because it wasn't here, correct? Hi, Paul. How are you? Happy Juneteenth. So I want to make something clear, and no, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being hateful. I love all people, even though people doesn't like my kind. A lot of people are against Black Americans for whatever reason. They have all these stigmas and lies, or we're lazy, with this and that. If we was lazy, this economy would have never been built. So half the things I say about us is absolutely not true. And we are the most kind, loving, generous people there is out there. And if we wasn't, we would have put ourselves on the line to fight for everyone's rights, especially women's rights, not only women's rights, civil rights as well, and the ability for other people, other colored people to come to this country and have a life. Like I said, the facts are the facts. This holiday was for Black American people who were enslaved, but let's make something clear. All Black Americans were not slaves. A lot were freemen and the copper-colored indigenous prisoners of war. And I know you're tired of hearing this, but let's look at the facts. According to slavevoyages.com, only about 2.5 thousand Africans came to America by boat. They stopped at the Caribbean countries and dropped more people off. Then, last stop, the Americas. Plus, look at these ships. At least one piece, a part of the ships would have been left over. I see something in the sky. Looks like a drone. A red balloon. I think that's a sign. But don't mind me. We gotta stay with the facts. Not all Black people were enslaved. Back then, there was a thing called freemen. When if you do a good job, let's say you never was a slave, and you get caught and get mistaken for someone else, you can get your papers, your walking papers, they called it. So just in case your skin tone offends an officer, it's funny because they was called slave catchers back then, now they're police officers. You could show, hey, I'm a free man, I have my walking papers. Not all Black Americans were slaves. There's a large percentage of freemen, and there was a large percentage of prisoners of war. Slaves were around 2.5 thousand Africans that came on the boat and were dropped off in the Americas. But since they've been here since the 1800s, they are now themselves, and plus they breeded with us, they're considered Black Americans. Now let's get to the facts. The Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves. Do you know what the Emancipation Proclamation is, Ari?
No.
The Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abraham Lincoln, pushed by Frederick Douglass to declare all slaves to be free. And this was not surprising. It was actually. It was on June 19th, 1865, I think. And that's why it's Juneteenth, is 6/19, Juneteenth. Abraham Lincoln signed the Proclamation Declaration, June 19th, 1865. Yes.
So Abraham Lincoln helped the people who were now slaves?
Yes, he was president at the time, and it's rumors that went around that his mother was a mulatto. Well, he was mulatto, and his mother was of color, but she was light skinned, so she was a house slave. And his father was a slave master. So he felt bad that even though he had these opportunities, he became president, he got educated, all these opportunities, he had to look back and see his mother working as her ass off as a slave and a Bedouin to a master. He felt bad. He didn't like it. And there was a whole bunch of abolitionists during that time, but one of the most popular abolitionists, and it's funny because he's a sellout, he ended up marrying a white woman, so he fought for the slaves to be free so he could marry a white woman. I call him a sellout, Frederick Douglass. He came out with the Proclamation Declaration with Abraham Lincoln. They worked together, and he said, you know what, I'm president, I have power to execute executive orders, so the slaves will be free. Right? And that is why Abraham Lincoln is my all-time favorite president of all time. A lot of misconceptions about him, what he did. Abraham Lincoln is my favorite, and I will fight you down about it.
He was a great man. He died great.
Because he didn't care what was popularized. He didn't care. He did what was right for the people.
And what was right was right. And he's an amazing man. A good person.
Very good. Moving forward. But the Emancipation Proclamation only applied. This Emancipation Proclamation was wanted all the slaves to be free. It only applied to the Confederate states that withdrew from the Union. It says succeeded, but succeeded means withdrew. If guys don't know. Do you have any idea what southern states withdrew from the Union?
Texas?
No, Texas was still in the Union. I'll tell you guys. It was Maryland, Delaware, Kentucky, Missouri, and these places were still enslaved because they succeeded through the Union. It was honestly a political move. Lincoln wanted to weaken the Confederacy by freeing their labor force, which was free labor for the slaves. And when he signed the 13th Amendment on December 6, 1865, it officially freed all slaves, even if they withdrew from the Union. So states like Maryland, Delaware, Kentucky, Missouri, that still enslaved people because they withdrew. By this date, December 6, 1865, regardless if they withdrew, they stayed around, they stuck around, they had to free their slaves. They put up a fight, these states here, Maryland, they put up a fight. But since the first Emancipation Proclamation did not go through, they had to make another move. And that leads me to my next point. What happened in Texas? Do you have any idea what happened in Galveston, Texas?
I have an idea. I think that Abraham Lincoln freed those slaves and that they fought for the slaves.
Kind of. You're on the right track. In June 19, 1865, after the Proclamation explanation was signed by Abraham Lincoln, Union Major Guard General Gordon Granger came to Galveston, Texas, and he realized that even after President Lincoln forced these states to free the slaves, they were still not free. So, what did that happen? Guess what happened? Let me tell you. He read the Proclamation Declaration and declared with everyone present that all slaves will be free. And this is 2 years after he signed it. So 2 years after Lincoln signed it, he went to Texas, which was still a part of the Union. And he realized they was not listening by President Lincoln's rules. So he made sure that all the slaves knew that they were supposed to be free, because back then you didn't have TV, you didn't have radio, you only had a newspaper, and only certain colored people could buy a newspaper. So they was able to withhold this information from the slaves. So they were still working, they were still doing all this, doing all the free work, and not even realizing that the president has already set them free. Why think they held this information back from them?
Because they didn't want them to be free.
Yes, they wanted an extra year of free crop work before they come up with a system to pay people.
And they didn't like black people.
Yes. And they still don't. And that's what kills me when I go online and I see all these allies and everyone having an opinion on things that has nothing to do with them. Because especially white people, because if it was up to your ancestors, black people would still be slaves. Let's not be dumb. Take acknowledgement and be an ally in silence. Support in silence. Show up when it matters. At the polls, voting, protest, donations. When we need you, that's when you show up. You don't go around spewing misinformation just because you're white, knowing damn well if your ancestors were still alive from back then, they wouldn't agree with nothing that's going on right now. All right, clock that team. Moving along. And when Major Grand General Gordon Granger came to Texas, he realized 250,000 people were still slaves, still doing the same thing. 2 years later, after President Lincoln told them they didn't have to. So he made sure that all enslaved people, even the enslavers that was held the information, knew that Abraham Lincoln signed the Proclamation of Nation on June 19, 1865. Now, we have more information here about important figures regarding the freedom of slaves. Let's get into it. Frederick Douglass, like I told you, he was a formerly enslaved, runaway slave that became an abolitionist. He went up north and he decided, I'm going to work hard to make sure all my people are free. And he worked and linked up with all these different presidents, made sure they knew his face, knew his name, and made sure that he became one of the leading founders, the leading helpers for Abraham Lincoln to get the slaves free. But he is also a fucking sellout. You know why he's a sellout?
Because he married a white woman.
So you did all that work, all that howling and hollering for us to be free, for you to still turn your back and marry a white woman and be erased. Because the Douglas family right now, most of them are white. They Diana Rossed his ass. And then they over here, it feels very selfish how he did it. And I understand that we should have been working for money. However, you deciding that you wanted to marry a white woman, the same white woman that will lie on slaves on the plantation saying they did things with them when it was them that came onto the slaves, the same white woman that was lying, even if they didn't come onto them, saying they did these things and had them killed, hung, and lynched, the same white woman that would do anything to protect herself, that even if she came onto you and she ends up pregnant and have a mulatto child, she would blame you, even though she raped you. That's what you go for? After you fought long and hard all these years. And even though he did help, I have to give him his credit. In my eyes, he's a fucking sellout. Frederick Douglass is a fucking sellout. He did all that hooping and hollering just to marry a white woman.
That's weird.
Weird. You could have been did that.
And
Moving on, Harriet Tubman, one of my favorite people. You know who she is, right?
was she a conductor of
Stop reading what I said and think of your own mind. Harriet Tubman was a conductor, one of the leaders of the Runaway Underground Railroad. She knew all the real underground places, people's basements that led to up north to drop people off in different locations so they could live a free life, particularly the ones that they knew did not deserve the treatment they was getting on these plantations, the ones that was getting beat on, raped, hurt daily by these white folk and other house niggas. We're gonna get the house niggas. Y'all next. Yes, I'll hear the question, Marie.
I don't have a question. I know that she helped slaves.
Yes, she led the Underground Railroad. She knew all the places and all the shortcuts to get to up north without being seen by the white people on the main road. However, she's almost got caught and everyone can't come with you. And that's something I want to implement into Kemet. Everyone can't come with you. Back in the days on the plantation, there was a such thing as house niggas. House niggas who are particularly mulattoes, half black, half white, and they love the fact that they didn't have to go out in the yards and pick cotton. Instead, they worked in the house, cleaned, cooked, swept around, and was side by side by massa. And because they had the privilege of not sweating in the heat every 2 seconds, even though they had to go through different back ways of the house and do all these different cleaning inside the house, they often looked down on the darker colored cotton pickers, field niggas in the back. And they would go to the field and make fun of them for their skin tone, their job. Meanwhile, they're not doing anything better. And that is the one leading things that led to colorism within the black community. House niggas. House niggas felt a sense of superiority because they was half white, half black. And you know what they did? They took every chance they got to rub it in the field niggas' faces. And because of that, even when the field niggas would be having a good time, having good, a good time, doing them, even making the best out of what they was given, they will often be snitched on by these house niggas based on vibes. Oh, they doing this outside. Or if they planning to do something to rebel against massa, the house niggas will often be the ones, oh, I heard this when I was over there. There's often the snitch and the ears and the eyes for massa when he couldn't be there to see himself. Question?
It's not a question. The only good one was Abraham Lincoln.
No, I'm naming the good ones right now. Point of what I'm saying is, it led to colorism today. Today, a lot of mulattoes and lighter complected women tend to look down on darker complected women, even though they're all black, due to the stigma of the house nigga and the field nigga. Another art of division made by the white man to keep us apart. That is what I mean by colorism started with white people and mulattoes. Even though they didn't get the same privileges as a regular white person, they had more privileges than a black person. And bringing down a normal black person made them feel better about being treated less than by their white peers. Moving along. Harriet Tubman freed the slaves. She didn't free everyone because everyone cannot be free. A lot of people was indoctrinated to that lifestyle. A lot of people was loyal to people that wasn't loyal to them. Perfect example, if you guys watch the Boondocks, I advise you guys to watch the episode, The Story of Cashapp. And even though it was a priority, it meant a lot of sense. It was even dark-skinned house niggas. Sometimes when there was no mulattoes, Massa would pick somebody that they felt was loyal to them, particularly a man in most cases, because the woman they would just rape and leave her alone. And, usually a darker complected man that they will let work inside the house and put ideas of superiority in their head so they can have a sense of loyalty to them and go against their family and friends in the plantation and often look down on them. You think I'm lying? Watch the episode, The Boondocks, Story of Cashapp. That man was a dark-skinned man that was supposed to be on the field, that upgraded from the field to the house because he snitched on one of his fellow slaves. Opal Lee. Opal Lee is important. She's called the grandmother of Juneteenth. She's the one who fought in court for us to have it as a federal holiday. Back then, they only had holidays that the pagans and the white people celebrated: Easter, Christmas. That's it. Back then, it wasn't that much holidays as it is now. They didn't view us as a person, and they didn't view Juneteenth as a day to be celebrated because it didn't benefit them. Sad, but she brought the case to court, won, and now we have Juneteenth, June 19th, as a federal holiday because it not only highlighted the difference between how it is now, but it also highlighted everything Black Americans been through as a people. Juneteenth is a very important day. And this is why I was going back to ancient Egypt. I was going to get here, but we have to make today about Juneteenth because Juneteenth is very important. And I think it's important for us to realize that it is for Black Americans.
Not Africans.
And a lot of people say, oh, Africans came to this country. Yes, about 2,000 of them. Yes. It is way more in other Caribbean countries. We was the last stop. Just because 2,000 Africans came in the 1800s and mixed with other copper color indigenous people, white people, all those other people. And we're not trying to take that away from them, but they are considered now Black American. What we consider African is the first generation, second generation, who has the deep cultures and connections straight directly to Africa. The people that came from the 1800s were sold into slavery, which means other Africans took them, kidnapped them, and put them on the boat. Which brings me to my point that West Africans were a helping hand in slavery. So when they get brought up in the argument of reparations, why should you get anything when you help the white man with his plan to confuse the copper color indigenous people, to mix and do with the copper color indigenous people so the white man won't have to pay them what they owe? You had a hand in slavery. You did. Yes, there was a lot of copper color indigenous people that was enslaved. But West Africa, you said, I'll get you the slaves, but what's in it for me? And the crazy part is, these white folks didn't give y'all no money. They gave y'all guns, or a little bit of gold, nothing really tangible. You sold your own people out for guns, for boats that you could have made yourself. And that's why I think this is laughable, the fact that they think they should get a hand in reparations. When you was over there right with them, you didn't know your worth. You could have asked for more. You didn't know your worth. And there's articles to this day that so happen to be private today, and I wanted to pull them up. My Kenyan great-great-great-grandfather sold slaves. And you think you get a piece of the pie? No, you're part of the problem. Question?
So I remember one time in second grade, someone showed me a video of the Africans being the ones enslaved, and that they were
They're lying. They wasn't slaves. And if there was slaves in West Africa, it was their own people doing it to them. So that has nothing to do with America. They used to catch slaves and give them to the white people and trade with the white people and then bring them across the Caribbean, the West Indies, in here. And that brings me back to another topic. The West Indies and the Americas, Indians, are closer than what you think. Before we had the islands, we was able to see them. So we had a connection. We would trade with them, contact with them. The indigenous West Indians are not African. They're aboriginal to their islands. Some people, it's crazy because there was a king of the Americas a long, long time ago, and he was kidnapped and from America and brought to the West Indies because they didn't want him remembering or telling us and waking us up and turn against these white people. A lot of American Indians were shipped to the Caribbean countries because they didn't want them here. They will mess up the plan and the building of the America that everyone knows and loves today. This is why Juneteenth is important. It's a marker, it's a date, it's a stamp on when the bullshit became unacceptable. When the Boston Tea Party ended. You feel me? Do you feel it?
Yes.
And that's why we have to talk about it.
I don't like white people that much. But I know what they've done.
It's crazy because when I was younger, we are indoctrinated to not like white people. But as a black person who grew up around the majority of them, we know how they operate. What I'm not liking is the people with similar skin tones pretending to be us while pandering to the white man. That's what grinds my gears more than white people. Because listen, we know the devil. We know them very well. It's the devil I don't know that pisses me off. Because he has a mask. He can pretend. He can blend in. And that's why we have to set this record straight. This is for black Americans, strictly for the niggas. Alright? Y'all have your own holidays. And especially in New York City, that they pushed all the original black Americans out. New York City is not the same. Let's talk about it. New York City is not the same. When I was growing up, we was the majority black Americans with the white and the Italians and the Puerto Ricans and the Chinese was here. That was it. Everybody else, the Jews started coming not in like the 70s and the 80s, whatever, but they wasn't the majority. The majority was the whites, the Italians, the Chinese, us, and the Puerto Ricans. We was the majority. Now we got the Jews, we got the Arabs, Muslims, all these other fuckers. And it's because Biden and Obama's bitch asses opened up the borders. And that's why his daughter's Republican today. Thank you, Obama. You made me a Republican. Because your fucked up weird ass waves. I'm a Republican now. Thank you. Moving along. Oh, you got a question?
Yes. So, basically, the white people say that they've gone through much when
But let's not even entertain it. It's not about them, it's about us. They didn't go through shit. They could have stayed in Europe. Moving along. The Juneteenth flag. A lot of people think it's a Pan-African flag. No, the Pan-Africans are obsessed with Africa and they're scared to take their ass there, which makes no sense. Because if we're obsessed with something, why not indulge in the obsession? They just want everyone to believe it because they're all a part of secret societies, fraternities, and all these different things. And they're paid to make us believe that we're African, even though we know and our parents, our grandfathers, mothers, they know we're not. Moving along. The red. Let me show you a picture first. Hold on.
Yes.
Give me a second. I'm gonna get my phone. Stay off the camera.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the Juneteenth flag. A lot of people think it's the red African, Pan-African flag. That is not the flag. This is the original Juneteenth flag, and I'll be putting it as the thumbnail of this video, so there's no confusion. That is the Juneteenth flag.
It doesn't look like an African flag.
It's not. It's red, white, and blue, like the American flag. Let me explain what these symbols mean. Hold on.
It's not an African.
Why are you repeating that? Red is the blood spilled, the people killed, in the preservation of Black Americans. Because, yes, we are of color. However, we are still American. White, the purity and new beginnings ahead of us. Looking forward and not back. The star in the middle, a 12-pointed star, which is called the Nova, symbolizing a new day and freedom. The arc, curved line across the bottom, representing a new horizon ahead of us. And on the flag is the date, June 19th, 1865, which is written to remember the day of freedom given to us by Abraham Lincoln, who signed the Proclamation. And here's a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King. Freedom is never given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Hence why he fought so hard for civil rights, other liberties that we have to this day. Even though himself was a sellout. Yes, he had a black, white Coretta Scott King, we all know. I think that's Coretta Scott King. He had a black, white, yeah, I think her name is Coretta Scott King. And he cheated on her with a white woman. Black men, it's all your fault. I'm sorry. Y'all the most. It's true.
I know, but
Black women were raped by white men for years and forced to give birth to mulatto children, which led to house niggas. You black men was voluntary in giving that shit up, even after freedom. We had a whole Dr. Martin Luther King. I respect his values, but he is another sellout who cheated on his black wife with a white woman and died about it.
That's sad.
He was murdered because he was caught with the white woman he was cheating on.
And he kind of deserved it.
Oh, you don't say that. But he wasn't shit. He was a sellout. Sorry. Now, for all this information we showed today, why do you think Juneteenth is important?
Because it symbolizes the day that we were free, and because it symbolizes the day that black people were free.
Yes.
And it's a black holiday.
Yes. For me, my people, the Richardsons on my father's side, they were freedmen. They was copper colored indigenous freedmen. They had their own farm, and I think one of them, they was indigenous because I know their tribe and I have their paperwork as well. So on that side, they wasn't in slavery, and you can see by the photos, they had freedmen attire on. But on my mother's side, my great-grandmother, Inez, married a runaway slave named Archie Priester. So there is some type of slavery ties on my mother's side. But on my father's side, they was freedmen. And that's what brings me to the conclusion that not every black person that was in America had to endure slavery. They didn't. I'm a living product of it. Half of my side did, the other half didn't. They lived in a farm in North Carolina, and it was a family farm passed on. I said it was about, how many acres? 15 acres? That's a lot of land. I should check on that, right? But they had a big family. And yeah. Any more questions? Like I said, Juneteenth is strictly for the niggas. This is the Juneteenth flag. Anything but this is bullshit. It's a lot of party promoters that will be getting hexed for celebrating and promoting and profiting over a holiday they didn't have to any ties, any business profiting off of. Now, one person in these New York City parties for Juneteenth actually had any ties to the people enslaved for this country. So, in due time, they will get their karma, and they themselves will be hexed. And don't say it's me, it's not me. I see a lot of talk, a lot of people, a lot of hoodoos going around. I'm just a messenger. All right? All right. Give this video a thumbs up, comment below. It's me, Professor Nami, but I ain't your mother. And I see y'all tomorrow Saturday. I'll see y'all on Monday.